So in this video, I'm just going to demonstrate how I do custom entrance animations with Elementor in a way that I find that it's easy to manage. What we're going to do is create a custom entrance animation for this title up here. All this text here is just to push the image down to the bottom there so that once it scrolls into view, we can apply a custom animation to that as well. Elementor has built-in entrance animations, but they're a little bit limited. And some of them are a little bit too clunky, or they're just too much. And I like having very subtle sorts of animations or something a little bit unique. So I'm going to show you how we do this. So we're going to need Elementor Pro so we can apply the motion effects and have custom CSS in Elementor. And we're going to need Code Snippets, which is a free WordPress plugin. It allows you to put PHP code snippets into your WordPress installation without having to edit your functions.php file inside your theme. Now, the old way of doing this is you would create a child theme and you would put your code into the functions.php. And the reason you do that is so when the main theme gets updated, it doesn't overwrite your changes. This is a way better way of handling it. I'll show you why. If we look out on the left-hand side here, we're going to see a menu option for snippets, which is to do with this code snippet. So if I have a look in there, add a new snippet, all we have to do is click on Add New, and then we can create a new snippet here. I've already created one here, so I'm just going to look at that. But here's the power of managing these snippets through code snippets. To enable or disable these, it's just a matter of clicking the switch. So you can have some PHP there for debugging or some common things that you always do, and you can just turn it on and off as you choose to. So let's have a look at what's in this code snippet. So what we're doing is we're hooking into an Elementor WordPress filter, which is this one here with the additional animations. And then we're going to call our own custom function. We always prefix functions when they're in what they call the global scope with something that's unique to you. In my case, my business WP get, so I prefix everything with WPG and then an underscore. So what this does is that when that filter fires, it's going to call my function, it's going to pass the current animations that other plugins or other common custom code is added into here. So we take that array and then we're going to add an array for our stuff. We're going to put a heading in there or a section in there called My Animations. And then we're going to have a list in here of animations. So on the left-hand side, it's the CSS class that it's going to add to an element when it comes into the viewport. And on the right-hand side is the name that we want to come up in Elementor drop-down for the entrance animation. If we go back to here, for example, I've got a demo page created here. So I'm going to select that heading and go into my advanced and then motion effects. And in my entrance animations, hit the drop-down. You can see on the bottom here, we've got my animations and short from left. I'm going to select that. That's not going to do anything just yet. And the reason is we haven't got the custom CSS yet. So what that's done is that under my animations, I've got short from left. Now I need to do something with this CSS class. I'm going to copy that. I might actually open up another page, to make it a bit easier. So if I have a look at my site settings and custom CSS, I've already put some variables in here which I'm going to use. Now, inside this editor, it doesn't understand these variables, so it's showing me that there's an error, but there's not actually an error. So to create our first animation, I'm going to put a dot and then the animation name, the class name, that we set up in our array over here. So in that, I'm going to then create a keyframes with the same name. Okay, so with the animation, just one little note on that is that what I've realized while putting this tutorial together, and this is my third run through this because of little glitches along the way. So when you load the CSS from a file that loads after Elementor, it's got a whole bunch of variables which it uses for other CSS classes. But because we're putting this into custom CSS, which will be inline before the Elementor code runs, we can't use the animation shorthand. So i.e. if we use animation colon and then a shorthand list of animation. The reason for that is because back over in the entrance animation effects, you've got this animation duration of slow, normal, and fast. They don't exist when this code runs. So if we use the shorthand, it doesn't work. It just has an animation time of 0 unless we specify it here, which is really going to override this setting over here, which is not what we want. So I'm going to show you how we do that. So instead of that, we specify each property. We want the animation name of this WP short from left. We want the animation fill mode to be forwards, and I'll explain what that is shortly. And we want the animation timing function. In this case, I'm going to go ease out. So what that'll do is it'll come in quickly, and then it'll ease into the endpoint. And I'll show you what that means shortly. Okay, so the other thing we want to do here is we want to put a WebKit prefix on all these just to make it more compatible with more browsers. Just as a rule of thumb, chuck those on there if the WebKit prefix for that property does exist. The animation keyframes, we start with this at 0%. And then we're going to go down to 100%. So what this is doing is that whatever the timing duration is, which we will set using slow, normal, or fast, whatever that is, 0% is the beginning of that time, 100% is the end of that time, and then the transitions in between is our from and to. So we can actually have, like, for example, if we wanted to, we can have a 50%. And we could do some other transitions inside that point there. At the moment, we're just going to go from 0 to 100. You can also replace these with the keywords from and to, but I like using this, so it makes more sense. Okay, so what we want to do with this is we want to set our opacity to 0 at the beginning and our opacity to 1 at the end. Okay, we then want to do a transform. And we want to translate the X okay, and I'll copy that, put it down to here. We want to go translate X 0. So we want to move to the side. So I could put here, say, minus 60 pixels. And what that's going to do is it's going to start from minus 60. And then it's going to move to 0. So we're going from left to right. So hence the name short from left. Instead of doing that, I prefer to use these variables. So I've got one here, short, medium, and long. I'm going to grab that there. There's a number of ways you can do this. We could do short negative, short positive, but you don't need to. So I'm going to show you how you do this. So if I put in there var, WPG effect distance short, that's going to be 60 pixels, which is to the right. So how do we make this negative 60? We have to add the calc keyword, and we want to calculate the amount. And here's where it gets a bit tricky. With the normal way you would think to do this, you might go 0 minus bar whatever. So 0 minus 60 pixels should be minus 60 pixels. What we found is this actually works in Chrome, but it does not work in Firefox. So what we do instead is we put -1 times var. So that'd be -1 times 60 pixels, which equals minus 60 pixels. That's pretty much how we do a minus here. I'm going to update that. And just going to check where we're at. So we've got a short from left, which calls our animation name short from left. And we've got an opacity of 0 and opacity of 1 at the end there. All right. So I'm going to just go back to this other, actually, I'll drag that across a little bit. Go back to this tab. I'm going to Control F5 to refresh the page so I pick up all these changes that I've just made there. When I pick this heading here, I'm going to set my motion effects to short from left. I've already done that. So because we haven't specified the duration, I can use, see how that's fast? Watch up here where it says add your heading. I might just drag that to the right, left a little bit. Fast, normal, slow. Okay, so these work because we haven't specified the animation duration and we've separated the properties out. So we're not overriding that to be anything in particular. So there's our first custom entrance animation. Let's say we want to add a little bit of rotation on it. So what we can do here with the transform in CSS, if you put a space, you can put another transform. So I'm going to do a rotate. And I'm going to put it maybe at 4 degrees. Now I'm going to grab that rotate. Oops. I'm going to put that back to 0. Okay, update. And I'm going to refresh. So it's rotating in. It's on, what is it on, normal? Put it on fast. So it rotates in fast. Only 60 pixels from the left because we're using this here and we're telling it to do -1 times that. Simple as that. Now, let's say we want to get real fancy and we want to have a Animista type animation. So there's a website over here, animista.net. If you go in there, it's free to use. So we want to do an entrance animation. Let's say we're going to do let's pick some of these, say twirling. That's a bit too much. Maybe flipping. It's too common. Maybe just try, maybe I like that one there, the flip in diag 1TR. Okay, but when you're on the one you like, you just go across to the right here and click on the code block icon. Okay, and it gives you the class and the keyframes. We copy the class, come back across to our custom CSS, and paste that class into there. Go back to Animista, copy the keyframes, back to our CSS, and put the keyframes in there. So there it is, our keyframes. Now, remember up here I was saying that because of the way the animations work with the timing effects, we don't want to specify the timing. Now, the default Animista CSS specifies the timing here. If we take that out, the animation just doesn't work at all. So what we have to do is actually make this, where are we? We have to edit this to look more like this kind of thing up here. So I'm just going to grab a copy of my shortcode I've created, shortcode, sorry, a copy of the properties from the short from left. I'm going to grab that. We're going to pop down to here. I'm going to paste those in. Okay. And we're just going to copy the name, like that in there. Leave it as forwards. I want to use this cubic Bezier as our timing function. And that's pretty much it. So now we can actually delete what we got from Animista. Delete these WebKit versions. Copy that. The WebKit versions in back in. Oops. And there we go. So if I hit update on that now, I've now got the CSS classes for that animation I just got from Animista. What I don't have is the drop down here. So I'm going to just add another line to my array under code snippets, and I'm going to call this one, what was the name of it called? Flip in diag. Let's just grab that there while we're here. We're going to paste that in as the class name, and let's call that flip in diag. Okay, so now we've got two custom effects, the short from left, the flip in diag, with their own class names. Save that. Okay, now I'm going to push the Control F5 on this page. Same on this one. Control F5 is because we've just added some properties, and when you load the editor, it'll load up those new properties that we've just added. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply that new flip and diag to this image down the bottom here. So if I select that, go to my advanced, oops, not too advanced, motion effects, and I select my new flip and diag effect. There we go. See it flip there? So let's go for the slow. It's a nice slow flip. Normal. Fast. So this animation duration works because we took out the timing function and separated out the properties into their individual properties rather than using this shorthand because that just will not work when we've got it in line. Okay, so that's pretty much that. That's how we manage our custom entrance animations. I'm going to show you a couple of little things with this while I'm here. So I'm just going to do a Control F5 again, make sure I've got the correct page. There's my flip in. Something you may not have known about Chrome. So we press the the F12, use our element selector and select that image. We want to go to the container for that image. So this is the Elementor element, and we'll see that's where our animation has been applied. So what we need to do is see next where it's got the timing function as the cubic Bezier, and it's got a little icon to the left-hand side of it. You click on that, you see how that's just a very simple animation. I could make it so that it goes very quickly at the beginning and then slows down. Maybe we want an S-curve like this. Weird sort of that speeds up and then slows down. Watching what that circle does as we move these shows us what the animation is going to be like. And then copy that cubic Bezier code, go back to our CSS, paste that into there, paste it into here so that they match, update that. Now you watch this image, how it animates now. Push Control F5. See that? It's sort of coming fast, slows down in the middle, and then pops in. That's the cubic Bezier, and you can get that. Just keep playing with that until you get it to what you like. Oops, we've gone too far up, have I? my image, there's my container, which is the element. There's my animation. Maybe we really want it to. So it's going forward and then backwards. Try that. Okay, let's see what this looks like when I do a Control F5. See that? Animates in, then goes backwards, and then goes up. So it's really cool. You can pretty much do whatever you want with that animation. You can change the timing of that. You can even chuck something else in the middle. Like I'm going to chuck one more thing in the middle here. I'm going to put in a 50%. I'm going to move the Y on it. So I go 50%, so I'm going to go translate, transform. So I'm going to translate Y of 0. Now you do have to add this to both the WebKit and non-WebKit version. I'm going to go the endpoint as well. I'm going to do it there. And I'm going to grab both of those. 50% point. And take the rotation out of it. And I might translate the Y by minus, I don't know, 70 pixels. Okay, do Control F5. See that? Total control over X, Y, rotation, 3D rotation, opacity, pretty much any property you can think of. You can animate over a cubic Bezier curve any way you like. So you've got complete control over how this works. If we make that a slow, that's on fast. Let's make it slow so it actually makes more sense. Push that. How's that? There you go. So that's pretty much how you can manage your own custom animations. So you'll need code snippets. You hook into this additional animations filter. You take the array that it passes to you. You add your configuration where it's the name of the set of animations with a list of CSS class names on the left, the name you want on the drop down on the right. That adds the animations to this drop down here for the entrance animations. You go to your CSS, custom CSS, you add your class here, which is added through, which should be exactly the same as what you get in the code snippets here. You set your animation name, your fill mode, timing function, whatever else you want to set here. Copy that, add your WebKit prefix to it. You can set up a keyframes with the same name to make more sense to you. And if you just want to go from the beginning of the time of the duration, say, to the end of the duration, you only need a 0% and 100%. And what do you actually want to have happen with your CSS during those points? Then if you go a bit flash, you can then add another keyframe in there. Actually, sorry, I just realized I didn't add the WebKit version in there, which may make sense. So there you go. So it's whatever we do in the standard keyframes, we have to replicate into the WebKit keyframes property as well, so that it's exactly the same cross-browser, regardless of whether it supports WebKit or not. Okay, so that's pretty much how I manage my custom CSS entry animation. So I hope there's some value in that for somebody.